Hey everybody, Whitney Woolard here. Today, April 10th, marks the 1-year anniversary of when I began aggressively treating late-stage Lyme disease. A year into it, I'm not in remission yet, but I do feel well enough to begin talking about it, sharing my story with others, hoping to share in other people's pain and suffering, but also to offer encouragement and hope for people walking through difficult journeys, much like myself, because Jesus has been so good to me. He has sustained me, He has carried me, and He has taught me so many things through this process. Really wonderful things, deep things, but also just super practical things that I think would be helpful for other people, not necessarily walking through Lyme disease, but other people who are suffering or caring for people who are suffering, or are just walking through a really difficult season, whether that's physical, emotional, or spiritual, even relational suffering. So look for that. It is coming up. I'll probably call it something like Lessons from Lyme Disease, which is cheesy, but hopefully it'll be kind of sticky and people will remember it. So before I do that, I want to quickly share my experience and my story because outside of our family, close friends, and then our local church body, I think a lot of people know that I've had Lyme disease, vaguely have some sense of what's happening, but don't really understand what that even means, what that looks like, and what Neil and I, what our lives look like right now. So let's start from the beginning. I'll make this quick because I have a treatment to go to in 10 minutes. About 3 years ago, Neil and I were here in Portland, Oregon, really flourishing, thriving. I had made it through grad school in like 4 semesters. We were doing ministry. We were loving it. And then we began to get super tired. Not like, oh, I stayed up too late tired, but this like crushing fatigue, as if, I don't know, like lead filled my bones and my muscles. And on top of that, I really began to have so much fog that I was doing further education and I had to stop. And again, I mentioned the going through grad school so quickly because it was very unlike me to drop a class and to drop a program and just say, I'm not going to do it. But all I could think about was how tired I was and how foggy my brain felt. Basic things like just writing a quick blog, I just couldn't do. And so this went on for quite some time. And then I finally went to the doctor. Turns out I had mono, Epstein-Barr virus. And then that has lasted, until now I still have it. And then I had another virus in that family, HHV6. I started to get like staph infections all over my body. I began to get just reoccurrent female infections I'd never had before. I started to have horrible insomnia. My pre-existing migraines were on the fritz. I was having debilitating migraines really every day. I either had one or was recovering from one. I'm trying to think, my mood, which had been really stable for about 8 years, I kind of just went berserk, and I kind of dipped into another season of clinical depression. By God's grace, it was very short-lived because I have a great doctor I work with, and he got me out of that. But it was just day after day plugging away, feeling like I was pushing through a deep, dense fog, wondering if I was just crazy, wondering if I had just gotten stupid. I mean, really, it sounds funny, but these are the questions you start asking yourself when it's been 1 year, and then 2 years, and then it was 2.5 years. And I was just struggling to do basic things, hang out with friends, sleep, be able to digest food, and most of all, just go on. I had no desire to do anything, which, if you know me, is not me. I'm passionate pretty much about everything, and I just I was just too tired to care about anything. In God's providence, some people I trust, in fact, 3 people, Neil, one of them, and then 2 dear friends, all at about within a week said, hey, we think you need to get tested for Lyme disease. I thought, why not? Let's just mark it off the list like everything else, because, you know, my labs looked bad, but nothing, no dominant illness was presenting itself. So we took the test. It was about 6 weeks before we got it back, and I just prayed and asked everyone around me to pray that the test would be really, really clear, because oftentimes you can't get a positive on like the Western blot, which is what I was doing. And then late one night during another bout of insomnia, I opened up my lab results, and sure enough, I read through it, and it said that I was positive for Lyme disease. And I was shocked. I only took the test so I could mark it off my list and be diligent, not because I thought I had it, or yeah, I knew people with chronic Lyme disease, and I just didn't want to believe that that was going to be my life, and so it is now. And we got into doctor's appointments, and 1 year ago today, like I said, we started aggressively treating it. This looked like 9 months of multiple high-dose antibiotics until the point I just felt like I was dying. It was just killing everything inside of me, and so we decided to go off that. It looks like supplements. We have spent thousands of dollars on medication and supplements. It looks like IVs. I do bi-weekly or weekly IVs for vitamins, electrolytes, and minerals, because I had a episode where I thought I was having a stroke, and I ended up in the hospital with dangerously low electrolytes because my adrenal glands were totally just shot. And so I had a horrible electrolyte imbalance that led to a complicated migraine, which felt like stroke symptoms. And so they kept me overnight and said I had to start doing these IVs after that. I do this treatment where I have my blood, a pint of my blood taken out, put it in with ozone, expose it to UVB light, and then put it back inside of me. On a practical level, my days are spent at least about 3 hours a day doing at-home treatment between infrared sauna, pulsed electromagnetic therapy, and then ozone and oxygen therapy. And it is just a grind. It is just day by day grinding through the treatments, the doctors. I have 9 specialists I'm working with, just going, going through what I know is right, even when I may or may not be seeing results. And so that has been my life for the last year. And of course, I was sick for about 2 years before that. So the last 3 years have just been incredibly draining and difficult and painful. Lyme disease is not just a, it is a tick bite, and if you catch it, then it can just be a, 30-day of antibiotics, and most likely you'll be better afterwards. But for many of us who don't catch it or didn't have that red rash bite, and we catch it years down the road, at that point it's late-stage Lyme disease, which affects neurologically. It affects your cognitive abilities. It affects your digestive system. It affects your hormones, your thyroid, your sleep, your mood. It causes a lot of psychiatric disturbances. So it's like this whole body disease, and so treatment includes a whole body approach, and that is where I am. I am 12 months in to, about an 18 to 24 month plan, making progress, but I still have a long ways to go. All that to say, because I do have to go to a doctor's appointment for a 2-hour therapy, all that to say, I have a lot of hope. God has been so good to me. He continues to be my rock. He continues to uphold me when I let go. He has loved me and cared for me and comforted me, even as I have suffered so imperfectly through all of this. I know that I have Jesus, my great high priest, who is interceding for me next to the right hand of God. I know that I have the Spirit, the indwelling Spirit, who is my comforter and my helper and who guides me moment by moment. Because, I mean, we're making hundreds of decisions on treatment and finances, and it's just draining. And yet I know that I have a God who's orchestrating all of it, and I trust him. And so I have hope, not just to be healed, though I'm very hopeful for that, but I have hope that one day I'm going to walk on a renewed earth with a fully redeemed body with Jesus and Jesus's people. And that forward-facing hope totally, comes back into my day-to-day life in the most practical ways. So I remain incredibly hopeful.